with this, I'm happy to give the floor to the audience and to get you engaged in volume to Richard. Richard, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, in typical UN fashion, the microphone lights light, but they are not on, so it doesn't matter. I think because even if it is on, I don't hear they're on.
It works.
Just to go on, Richard Jordan from Royal Academy of Science International Trust. I would like to propose that the second millennium be called the International Millennium of Oh, it is working. Yes, International Millennium of Happiness. I'm sorry, I'm a native New Yorker, and I really don't like gloom and doom and snowball fights either, Rob. We've had enough snow. Sorry. Oh. Okay, so there are a couple of strategies I'd like to just put forth where you might gain a lot more synergy for example, the Global Music Contest. One is the Astrovision board at Times Square. It used to be called the Jumbotron. If you can get the Times Square Alliance to highlight the winner of the Global Music Contest, you've got millions of people who go through Times Square every day. If you could get once a day the winner on for 1 month as a corporate social responsibility benefit to the Times Square Alliance, you get publicity. You've got to be out there. Second, Carolyn Maloney, the congressional representative for this district, estimates that Fashion Week in New York City brings in $845 million to New York City. What if you could get fashion designers to devote part of Fashion Week to the issues we're talking about, even if it's just one issue. Two other things. If you could get the winner of the global music competition into the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games in Brazil, you've got another piece of outreach that's watched by hundreds of millions of people. And lastly, if you could get into the halftime show at the 50th Super Bowl, which is coming up on February 7th, 2016, I do plan ahead, February 7th, 2016, if you could get whoever is doing the halftime show to sing the song of the person. Think of Katy Perry and the Dancing Sharks, I mean, it's, I see that Joe is shocked. He's either shocked in delight or shocked that I'm even bringing this up. But you've got to get this popularized. If the world we want said we can't even reach 1 million people, well, they reached 7 million people. So if you don't push forward, as a New Yorker, I'm pushing forward. And any way that I can help you with the NFL or the International Olympic Committee, I do have a few friends in places, happy to do so. But I think your dreams are big. We need to get them out in big fashion. Thank you.
Super.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
And I do like Katy Perry, by the way.
And now I would be very happy if a woman could take the floor. Sharon, Lisinka, Judy, or Anne-Charlotte, or Maria.
Well,
I think
why
this
did
is
you say
giving
something?
a few of
Please.
Thank you, Richard. Those are great ideas. I think they should be followed up. And given that, I have a number of things that this has sparked. One is, since you're being contentious, why in the world do you think that NGOs don't work together? That's one thing that I want to ask you to respond to. And this is a great arena here that we're creating some kind of unity and, support for your for this effort that you're putting forth. The other is that I'll add whatever I can to it. As a psychologist, I know tremendously that music has tremendous power to communicate. It is, of course, called the universal language. So there isn't a person who can't respond to some kind of beat. So whatever the Psychology Coalition can do for you in that regard, I'm on board. And though I missed the beginning, sorry to say, do explain to me what the love declaration is, because I live in front of the love statue in New York on 55th Street, which is right there on 6th Avenue, and I have been called the love doctor, having answered people's sex and love questions for years on radio and TV before I became a UN representative. So psychology is at your service.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Judy Kuriansky. As regards the love declaration, it was in the introduction we said that this side event is some kind of love declaration to knowledge and to cultivating and nurturing knowledge in the context of United Nations system and in the context of global cooperation, youth engagement, and that.
Well, along those lines, have you spoken to Ambassador Torriello from Sao Tome and Principe? Because recently he was the host of the UN concert that we had March 2nd about Ebola, to raise funds for Ebola. And of course, Patrick Sciaretta is working with him and does all these youth. So there's tremendous resources all here to get behind what you're doing, which is brilliant.
Super, yeah. Thank you very much, and thanks for the hint regarding Sao Tome and Principe. We are very well connected with Patrick Sciaretta, and he's also our representative on the board of Congo, the Conference of Non-Governmental Organizations. Thank you. LISINKA?
Well, I must say I'm humbled by the amazing ways in which there's been a mobilization on this panel, you know, of large numbers of people, and of course Richard's wonderful big thoughts of how we can further mobilize people. One of the things that we've been pushing at the United Nations is actually to look at what people can do, because where there's a problem, it's felt at the grassroots, and the grassroots finds the solutions. And so that is what's brought up an amazing groundswell, which you can call shared societies or social solidarity economies. In business, it's the cooperatives. The generic name are the commons. And these are people who basically are into communicating, into collaborating, and into community, the community of sharing. So what we're seeing is a groundswell happening throughout the world, which is based on sharing. And this is a total paradigm change from, you know, top-down hierarchical structures to parallel structures. And this economy is virtually free. And it consists of information, it consists of best practices, it consists of technology transfer. Apparently, there's free machinery to generate renewable energy, which you can get all the information and also the means to actually to develop these machines for renewable energy. Harvard professors teach on the internet for free, hundreds of thousands of people at the same time. MIT's coursework and that of other universities is available for free on the internet. So what we see is that we're getting a total paradigm change of sharing, but also a paradigm change in which people are important. Now that is really important, because in the talks at the UN, what we've had is that the governments, top down, keep thinking, well, let's bring the people up and help them. Don't let's leave the poor people behind. But the part that's missing is actually what is already happening and how people are already creating sustainable development. How people are creating a paradigm change, because what we're trying to do is to come to a world that's integrated, in which everybody, just like the cells in the body, have their place. And this is really what happens when you work with communities and sharing that are not rigid, but you create your communities as you go along. Also today we've been talking about the indicators. And if we talk about from the top down, governments trying to measure, oh my God, how am I going to measure Mrs. Smith and Mr. Brown and Mr. Somebody in a tiny village out there, we just get nowhere. But if we have the GIS system, it's the Geographical Information System, which connects people who geographically, where they are geographically, and there collects information from them. You begin to collect information for the indicators from the ground up. And it starts with a little community where the city council connects and says, well, so many people are using such and such things and there's so many schools, and that goes into their little community, and so the communities feed into the national level and so into the global level. That is another way in which we can actually use the people and the connections that you are all talking about to actually generate the indicators. And the final thing is, I think I brought that up with We the World once, when I'm not sure if you were the one who were actually stating it. But one thing that we've been talking about quietly and now sort of beginning to bring out to the open is what we call, based on the online global platform that the Secretary General talked, that's paragraph 125 of his synthesis report. And what he says is, well, why don't we have an online global platform where we can transfer technology? An idea that we've been working on for a long time, and I have been working on it since probably 1983, is the thought that what we could have is and it wasn't online in those days, but that we could have sort of an interaction between citizens worldwide, and at this point where everyone would have their page on the internet, every government would have a page on the internet, every one of the United Nations institutions that are sort of so isolated would have their page on the internet, each with their national sustainability strategy. And with their page, they would also have, well, this is what I need in order to be able to fulfill mine, and this is what I can contribute. And there would be a search engine that would automatically be constantly bringing the needs and the contributions together through this GIS system. And that way, there would be this sharing economy would begin to become a motor and begin to be moving and bringing more and more people in. And that could then become a motor for sustainable development. There's much more to that platform than what I'm saying right now, but that is just sort of the gist. Now, to bring it to what we're doing right now, we're talking about how we're going to move forward from now till 2015. And the point is we have to get the wording in right now. So we're going to have to find ways in which we can bring the wording in of the contributions that people are making. We've been thinking about one thing is universal access to the internet, and this is very tame in comparison to what we're talking about. Universal internet access, universal GIS system would be two ways, just the mechanical side, but then also recognizing the economies and societies groundswell based on sharing, caring, and community as a financing mechanism and a means towards sustainable development. I don't know how we can do that, but we do need to work together on that, and we're exploring with various governments how to do that. Please, we'd like to have input, guidance from anybody about that, and also collaborate with you and, so we're in no way as populous as you two are, or the three of you are, but what we do as a Commons cluster is we have members and people throughout the world, and then we have strategy meetings, and whoever's interested in the topic, they phone into the strategy meeting and we discuss stuff. So we have typing pads where we write together various things, and then from that we create documents which then go to the heads of state and the UN ambassadors and bring up in the conferences.
Thank you very much, Lisinka. These are extraordinary valuable points, and 100% support the work of the Commons Cluster. Also, at the beginning of the journey for this Global Challenges Action Network, there was a conference in September 2011 that also Michael and Ashley have attended. It was about knowledge, youth and global commons, orienting knowledge systems and intergenerational relations to, in the context of Rio Plus 20 conference, and really commons and sharing of resources, and this really citizen-driven knowledge collaboration and monitoring. This kind of things are certainly parts of the solution for a sustainable world, I'm sure. One last point, perhaps, if somebody would like, and then we would make a final statement round of the panel. And please, Rob.
Yes, I'm Rob Wheeler with the Global Eco Village Network and the Commons Cluster. You guys have all overwhelmed me, so thank you. I've got a lot of thinking to do afterwards tonight and try to get a better handle on everything that you presented. The thing that really grabbed my attention when I looked at the side event listing today was the translating the global SDGs into local action. And taking a quick look at your paper, what I'd like to know more about is focusing on music as a means of supporting global community building, climate science communication, and global citizenship education. I'm very intrigued as to how we're going to do this and what it will look like in reality. But I think it's a great challenge, and to the extent that we're actually able to do it, it would be incredibly helpful, a great contribution to make. One thing that I think about is about 20 years ago I was doing a local sustainability community campaign, and I was singing a song with the kids by John McCutcheon, an American folk artist. And it's right in my own backyard. Right in our own backyard, there's lots of things that we can do right in our own, and then names all those things. And Rafi is another Canadian musician that also works with kids. And I was thinking that artists like that, there must be tons of them from all around the world, that their involvement with this type of an event might be very helpful to publicize the event and to get kids interested in it, because all the kids know who these guys are. So that's one thing. And the other thing was, I've been very interested in how to get TV coverage of the things that we're doing. And there is this TV production company in Austria that might be worth looking into, called Rocket Media. But the model, I think, of how they do what they do is useful. They started 12 years ago doing the Energy Globe Awards. And they broadcast them around the world and now have a network of 65,000 TV stations and networks all over the world. And the way that they're able to produce top quality programming that the networks want to use is they get corporate sponsorship. And the corporate sponsors can actually highlight the positive contribution that they're making through their business to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals or whatever else, whatever you want to highlight. So it's a win-win situation for the company, who then can put up a lot of money because they're going to reach such a huge global audience that you can then take a portion to promote your event as well as produce really top quality programming. And then you provide the programming free to the networks and they're happy to put it on. So that's the model, and the company is Rocket Media, and I'd be happy to introduce you to them if you're interested.
Yes, very much so, yeah. Thank you very much, Rob. Very valuable suggestions, and we will certainly stay in contact. And also the event on the 23rd of April at UNESCO in Paris about this youth and media alliance building and global youth music contest will be web broadcasted, so there will be also opportunities for virtual participation. And with this, we come to the final round here. Juan, do you have your...
This time I think we should let my colleagues here start first, and then...
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's only fair.
Joe, then you start.
Okay, so we'll go backwards. So I guess in closing, I think that, you know, between the International Millennium of Happiness and the despair that can set in, and the process of engaging people in the process, which everybody thinks is impossible. What I see happening right now is there's an emergence of the will to make these things happen. It's something that's happening in local communities. It's something that political leaders are figuring out. They can be smarter if they include the people they represent in their own thinking, in their policy-making process. I see agencies and non-governmental organizations doing this, not polling to figure out what people think, but talking to people to figure out how they see the world. And that's a little bit different. I think that's what the World We Want survey does. That's different. It's not just a poll or a survey about what people think about or care about. It's actually a way to visualize the human landscape of the world. And so whether we have local inputs about, data through technological systems, or whether we have conversations, whatever we can do to facilitate those connections and to bring more people into places where they have a dignified role in making the future of their world, the better off we're all going to be, I think.
Perfect. Super. Thank you very much, Joe. Michael?
Yeah. Miroslav and I were involved in another effort to remind people that there's an Article 29 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that after you get all these rights, there is an obligation, one obligation, to give back to the community. And we try to remind people that it's not just that. And I don't really care about what you get into, whether it's women's rights or environmental justice or helping the elderly or disabled people, which I'm getting into, HIV/AIDS, drug users, prisoners, asylum seekers, refugees. There are a lot of rural disadvantaged people, and I think the reality, however, is there is an expanding gap between the wealthy and the poor. And we don't seem to care very much anymore. We watch our sets of television and Syria goes by, people are messed up in Yemen, in Afghanistan. Probably if it falls back, no one's going to want to go rushing back in. You have Mr. McConnell, I guess is his name, who wants to go back to digging gold. You've got pipelines coming through. I think we need to muster all the people we can, but what I think I was trying to say is that a lot of our NGOs are competing for the same meager amounts of money that are around, and these causes I've listed often compete very, very directly with each other. I just came from a meeting where a group of women were shouting at each other about and suspecting their values. So I think we have to be realistic. I think there are many causes out there. We shouldn't believe that ours is the only one. And I think we do need music. We do need large crowds. We do need to show that there are more of us than just a single battle going on. I think the UN can provide that. I think big events do move things, but I'm not sure that I just agree with you about political action. I think political action is important. Choosing the leaders that you want to have as your president, vice presidents, congressmen, premiers, or whatever, do matter. I think it's also shown in your government. So I think he's going to shut me up now, because I'm going to get too specific. But I think political action, it also gets included among the list of things that I mentioned. And there's nothing wrong with people who become political, and nothing wrong with protest actions either. I would like to say that. And that we're getting very close to criminalizing protests. And that, I think, is a really dangerous thing. The fact that now, basically, you cannot protest. Civil rights protests are now smashed down with a tremendous brute force that you'd only think would have been possible in China or Russia. So, that's all.
Thank you very much, Michael, and I agree. The political part is important. Politics is about power, and only if there's a power shift towards those who are working in the terms we work, sharing, caring, solidarity and long-term perspectives of sustainability. Only if these people will be in power, in political positions, then there will be also decisions in this direction. And so I encourage everybody to to run for political functions, and it's starting on local level, because a sustainable world starts at home and then on local level. One.
Very quickly, I think accountability is key. My colleague Ravi always says it 3 times: accountability, accountability, accountability. So I here want to echo his words, because I'm sure he wanted to be here. There is this question about whether this agenda is morally or legally binding. I say morally binding is stronger, it's a stronger mandate than legally binding. I say that a human rights agenda, in order for it to be fulfilled in the future generations, we have to have a sustainable development agenda in place in order to guarantee that. And yes, we're far from it. If we're going to be realistic, we have to, increase accountability. But I also think that, as Nelson Mandela said, sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great. And he also said that you can be that generation, and he said this not so long ago. I'm assuming he was speaking to the millennial generation. But then our thinking is, it's not whether we can or cannot be that generation. I think at this point it's a question about whether we have to be that generation. And as Jean Arthus Bertrand also said, a famous French photographer, he said that it's too late to be pessimistic. It's too late for people living in poverty, as you well point out, people dying in Syria because of their religious belief, but it's also too late for the planet. So that's why we like to stay optimistic, and we need to, and because mainly we're afraid that pessimism will just freeze people from action. And it is positivity, it is that energy from young people that has driven initiatives that My World, where we thought it was impossible. We actually thought that if we got 100,000 votes, that would be success. 7 million votes later, I can tell you that My World doesn't belong to the UN Millennium Campaign, doesn't belong to UNDP. The world we want doesn't belong to me as coordinator, Ravi as co-chair. It belongs to everybody. It's common good. And we have to protect it, and we have to harness it. It doesn't grow on its own, and as I said before, the doors somehow always seem to try to shut. So it's really up to us and to push and keep them open and keep fighting every day. Thank you, Miro, thank you all of you.
Thank you very much, Juan. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, Joe. Great panel. And we will be the messengers of hope, the agents of a positive change. Thank you very much also to Ashley for filming the event. Also to Jamal for the technology support officer here from the United Nations. And we will also try to have it on UN Web TV in future, but this will be also some kind of discussion. So thank you, everybody. I hope we will sing a lot in the future together.
Thank you.
We shall overcome.
Dias em torno do sol, passo constante. O teu ser lento, mar no coração. E a cada estremecimento vais mudar.